Welcome back to Beyond the Pulpit. Super excited to be sitting down with the both of you today. We're talking about how our exponential faith leads to exponential impact, and we see that on full display through our volunteers. So that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah. So just as a recap, right? Well, first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
The famous, the amazing. It's everything your wife told me to say about you.
I'll pay her
Amazing
later.
Pastor Glenn Dowling. And for those of you who don't know who he is, Pastor Glenn has been faithful to our church for a long time, and probably 10 years, 10, almost 11 years, and has served in many different capacities, but specifically you've been so incredibly helpful in raising up volunteers, leading volunteers, and now not only at our broadcast site you lead that team, but you've also trained across new locations and other locations, volunteer teams and leadership in that. So grateful for that. You are not a paid staff person.
Nope.
You are an executive, and you're a small business owner, and so you've got your own life. So it's a great conversation to have about volunteers. But as a reminder to everybody who's listening or watching, is this year 2025 the word that was for our church, Life Church, that God gave us was that this would be a year of exponential, and that exponential we would experience exponential in our life, in our church, as we go deeper, get connected to the vine, get connected with Jesus. But then we would see this exponential, we would have this exponential experiences. And so today, like you said, we're talking about how that exponential impacts us as volunteers and what that's all about. And I think I want to start with this. I was thinking about this as I was preparing for this podcast, is I think that volunteerism in the church can get a bad rap. I think that there's sadly a perception that people feel like they just want to be, that the church just uses them, or that it's like a job or any of those kind of things. But ultimately, God calls us to serve the house of God.
Yes, 100%.
And when we serve the house of God, we experience blessing for that. When we honor God with our, not just our time, but our talent and our money, we experience, God does something. He blesses us on that. But before we go into and talk all about that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, more than I told, a little bit about your family, a little bit about your Jesus story, so that people who don't know who you are can get to know who you are.
Sure. Thank you so much. And I'm excited to be able to be here. I've seen Beyond the Pulpit from a distance, but I'm excited to actually be here to be able to have this time with you. But Sherley and I have been married now. This year will be 24 years.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
She's a saint.
She
for
is.
being married
Absolutely.
to you that long.
Absolutely. There's a special place in heaven for her,
There is.
for that. We have 4 children. Actually, most of them are adults now, which is crazy to think about, but 23, 19, 21, and 14. So we actually have one that's out of college, 2 in college, and 1 new freshman in high school. So it's definitely an adjustment period.
Who's the favorite?
We don't get into that because...
Well, I know I'm your pastor.
Yes.
She's the favorite.
Yeah, no. There's no favorites.
There's no
we just love them all differently.
There you go. I love that.
That's right.
We love them
You're
all
so
differently.
good with your words,
Yes,
buddy.
So we have different relationships with each of them, but we're excited about our family. We're excited about our faith. Got saved in 1998, so it's approaching 30 years of following Jesus, and it's been great. Shirley and I met, got married, and were able to do life together. And with Jesus at the core and the foundation was huge. And in the beginning of our walk, a lot of it was just really understanding faith, understanding the Bible, understanding just what that walk really meant. But there was a transition period when we moved to Pennsylvania where we really started to understand what participatory membership was. We went to a church before where it was you went through a membership class, but then we realized the power behind participatory membership and just really being the hands and feet of Jesus and serving God's people.
Yeah.
And that's something that
really
we got really, really excited about, just really leaning in and just really seeing the light bulb go on in people when they start to serve and realize the potential.
Yeah. It's good. It's
No,
really
that's
good.
really good.
It's really good. So you serve in, you're a people person. Shirley's a people person. I mean, you both serve in different capacities in different arenas, but both of you have the heart of a servant.
Yes.
So can you talk to us a little bit more about that? I know you said that when you met Jesus, you started with the foundations of your faith, but then you kind of moved to serving. So you are a busy person. You have a high level job. You have a family. So can you talk to us a little bit about that? You have the heart of a servant. So how do you execute that with your life?
Yeah, no, great question. And, when I think about it, for most people, when they walk into church, they kind of walk in with their eyes glossed over. They're like, where am I? What am I doing here? And then they have that encounter with Jesus and they say yes.
Yeah.
And the next step is for them just understanding what that walk really means, right? And for some people, it may be a walk. For some people, it may be a crawl into a walk. For some people, it might be a full sprint, depending on where they are.
Yeah.
But one of the things that starts to happen is that when you develop the heart for serving people, you start to work alongside people and you realize that you're not on this journey alone.
Yeah.
You start to realize that some people have the same struggles. Some people have the same challenges. Some people have the same fears, doubts, insecurities. And what really starts to happen is you really start to fill voids with other people in that community. So when I think about it for us, a lot of people say, I don't have time. I'm really, really busy. And I really believe that we make time for what's important to us.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anything that's important to us. So I know for me, I made a very strong commitment that Sunday was going to be my day where I want to serve God's people.
Yeah.
And the same way that you may work from Monday to Friday from 9 to 5, that's a priority in your life. You may do something else on a Saturday. That's a priority in your life.
Yeah.
We made a decision as a family that we would serve.
Yeah.
So for Sherley and I, it wasn't like we needed to serve in this specific ministry or that ministry. I remember starting at Connect Central, and I tell this story often because it was actually your mom who trained me. And I sat with Connie and she showed me how to do Connect Central. And I was like, wow. And then I said, I'm going to help out with ushers. And then I said, I'm going to help out as a connector. And it was just wherever my talents were best used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that a lot of people struggle with. They think that I have to have it perfect. I have to be fully equipped. I have to be trained. No. God will use your availability and take your ability and make something happen with it.
Good. Yeah.
But if you're making yourself available, so when we sit and talk with volunteers, we want to find out what are they passionate about?
Yeah.
And we try to align what their passions are so that way they can live it out. As I think about it, it's humbling to see people who have started serving and moved into leadership in serving. So now they're leading teams, but how that translates to other areas of their life.
Yeah.
I've seen a direct correlation with people who've been promoted at work.
Wow.
They've been seen differently because they've been able to use this opportunity to practice working with people, develop skills that actually helps them be more effective and efficient in the marketplace.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, so I so much going on in my mind right now. So I believe it was last season, or maybe it was 2 seasons ago, we sat down with Pastor Esteban and Pastor Chadi. Pastor Esteban is over our production and Pastor Chadi is over creative. And Pastor Esteban was talking about how where else on the planet can you get a quality training of how to do something like production, for example, for free.
Yes.
We train our volunteers how to do cameras, how to do, sound, how to do graphics, how to do all these other kind of things, how to sing, how to play an instrument, all this stuff for free. And I think that in a volunteer capacity, I loved what you said. You said there's a way to learn. So there's leadership. The other thing that we're in a cohort with some lead pastors around the country. And one of the things that we talked about was what an opportunity the church has to develop leaders. A lot of organizations in the marketplace aren't investing as much as the churches of our type are investing into growing future leaders, right? Our Life Church Academy is stellar type of stuff. I mean, SEU came back to us and said, what you guys are doing there and your curriculum is quality stuff. But circling back on something, I think you addressed it a little bit, but I want you to see if you would unpack it a little bit for me. Is one of the things that I've heard before, and I recently heard it, I think last week, was people will say, this just feels like a job. No, it wasn't last week. It was like maybe a month ago. This feels like a job, or people say, this is just a job. So that's one side of the question. First, A part of the question is, how would you respond to that? And what would you say from your experience is the difference, because you have a job, the difference between serving and a job. And then what would you say to someone who says, well, I'm just too busy to serve? Well, you have a job, you're busy, you have a high level job. So, and you've had kids and all that kind of stuff. So how would you answer both of those, and to help people understand in a healthy, theologically accurate way to process those two questions, A and B?
All right, so you gave me a lot to process there.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna unpack it.
This is what happens. Welcome to Beyond the Pulpit.
That's fine. So again, the Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So for some people, they look at serving as a job because that's their frame of reference.
That's good.
And they go, okay, this is a job. And I think it's a heart issue, right? Every one of our volunteers are just that. They're volunteers. They're not paid.
Right.
Yeah.
So many people will give their job a priority because they get paid for it.
Yeah.
So they see that exchange. So I
yeah.
go to work and I put my time in and I get something at the end of it.
Yeah.
When you volunteer, it's not as tangible. But the impact that you make when you're serving God's people and you have people come up to you and tell you their stories and they tell you, wow, because you smiled at me when I came in, it changed my life. That's where the reward is. And you can't put a price tag on that. You can't put a value on that. I think of times where I've had somebody who was telling me, well, I serve at my food pantry. That's where I serve. And I said, well, you don't serve here on a Sunday. And I challenged that person. And they said, well, I'm really, really busy. I have a lot going on. I said, can you dedicate one Sunday a month to serve? Just one. Because it has to start with the first step.
Right.
Very often we look at the whole staircase and go, oh my gosh, I can't get to the top.
Yeah.
Well, the only way you get to the top is by taking the first step.
Yeah.
And that person came back to me and says, wow, I started serving one time. And then she said, you know what? I can serve more. Because sometimes people make things up in their mind about the level of commitment
Sure.
that it takes.
Right.
If you think about it, if you're serving for a service or two on a Sunday, it's not really a big sacrifice. But when you're working with kids and you see kids run up to a teacher and grab their leg and go, this is my favorite teacher.
Yeah.
What price do you put on that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's really
When somebody walks into the auditorium and they're greeted by an usher who helps them not just, oh, sit over there. They walk them to their seat and they say, I'm so glad you're here. See, it's very dangerous when you ask people how they're doing because you get a range of responses.
Yeah.
But when somebody walks in and you tell somebody, I'm glad you're here, that makes such a difference. Because think about how many times somebody's not even recognized, right? So I really believe a lot of the volunteerism and the mindset behind it should be people focused and what you can deposit in somebody else,
That's real good.
That's good.
right? Not just
Instead of what you get from
what I
it.
get from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I try to work with volunteers, and what happens over a period of time is for people who start serving and they serve a lot, they start to shift into this is a chore, it's a task. And I help to recenter them and say, hey, maybe we need to think about maybe moving you to another area. Maybe we need to think about reimagining how you do what you do so you can mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So that way it doesn't feel like this drag.
Yeah. It's good.
Tell a little bit about. Thank you for that. That was
Yeah, it was super
it was really good. And here's what happened. I think going forward, when we do Beyond the Pulpit, I need to bring like a little notebook because there's these thoughts that come in my mind, and I'm like, I can't forget to ask that. I can't forget to that, and then I
No,
forget
and
it.
I have a question I want to ask too, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. Then maybe you should just ask that because I wanted you to tell a little bit about our conversation that we had yesterday with that mother, without saying names, and how that is such a great example of how someone was impacted by serving, even though their circumstances didn't change,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
But what has happened there? So do you want to do that first? Do you want to ask your question first?
Well, I think this kind of plays into the question. So I'll tell the story and then I'll ask the question. We met with a mom who her son's in a difficult situation right now, and he is he's going through some things, and so but he was serving as
I think he's incarcerated.
Yeah, okay, he's incarcerated, and so he was serving, and he loved serving, and that really helped him in many different ways. But he really took it seriously. He was responsible. He started to develop some friendships, some connections with the other people on his serve team, and which then also his mom started coming to church, and then she started to be a byproduct of those connections, I guess, because then the people started asking her how she was and making sure that she was cared for, seen, loved, valued. So she met with us and just wanted to let us know the impact that has made on him, and that she's in a tough spot, but he has now been encouraging his mom, you need to go back to church. You need to go back to church every week, and you need to stay connected, and you need to get involved. I want you to start serving.
Yep.
So that has truly impacted his life in a great way. And he has peace where he is, even though he has to he's incarcerated for a period of time, but he has peace because
A long period of time. Yeah.
because he has a relationship with Jesus and he
Yes.
knows that he needs to, pay his consequences. But I just love how his yes to serving created so much more than just helping people, find their way. It's
Yep.
really giving back to him. And now he's encouraging his mom. So my
But he
question
saw,
to you, what?
No, added on to what you said, the beautiful story, more than just what you just said, in addition to what you just said, is he felt seen. You
Yes.
said it.
Yeah.
He felt seen. I don't want people to miss that.
Yeah.
He felt seen, because if we can't, for confidentiality, share the complete details. But when he walked through the doors of our church, what he had experienced and what he was going through, I've never heard a story like that before.
Mhm.
And even through that, he was seen. And
Yeah.
so that's so important.
And I
know
want
you
to
wanna
jump
say
in on
something.
that before
Yeah.
we jump into the question.
Don't forget your question.
What's so great about our teams and even our leadership teams is you were approaching that same situation from one angle, and our teams were approaching it from another angle,
Yeah.
You mean we were seeing it from a pastoral perspective? Yeah.
right? And we were seeing it from a pastoral perspective, coupled with this was somebody who was on the team.
Yeah.
So when this person got in trouble, they reached out to the lead of that ministry,
Mm.
who was there for him,
Yeah.
who prayed with him,
It's good.
who was there to advise. And then when that leader said, hey, I want to pull Pastor Glenn in, I talked with him, I prayed with him, gave advice,
Yeah.
sat with the mom,
Mm-hmm.
just did that for the family.
Right. Right.
Where could you get that if you're not connected to the vine?
Well, that's so you segue really nice into it. It's more than just serving, right? It's when you're a part of the team, there's way more benefits, community,
Yes.
friendship, right? So can you speak to that a little bit more, and then maybe share another story of somebody else who has that's a byproduct of them saying yes to serving the house, to serving God and His people, and then the benefits that
Because
from that.
because what we're saying right now is we're giving the why behind the what.
100%.
The what is I'm seating people. The what is I'm holding a sign and welcoming people, right? The what is I make breakfast for the volunteers and hospitality, and the what keeps going and going. The what is I'm behind a camera, and that's the what. But the why, that'll sell.
And then that helps with the heart.
Yes.
The why always
Correct.
speaks to the heart. So, yeah.
100%. I read this quote, and it says, the banana that always separates from the bunch gets peeled.
Say it again.
True.
The banana that separates from the bunch always gets peeled.
Mm.
So the difference between unity and untied is where you place the eye,
Unity and untied. Okay, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when you're part of a team, you're stronger together.
Mm.
Because when you see that team all working together, you feel like you're a part of it.
Yeah.
And in our culture today, there's so many people that believe that they can do everything on their own, and they struggle.
Yeah.
I like to say that Rambo only happens in movies, right? Where somebody just goes through and just blows everything up. But you can't do life alone. So being a part of that community and being a part of a team that's serving together is huge.
Yeah.
I can think of stories about people that may have been in the parking lot. And I think about our parking volunteers. They are the all-weather team,
Yeah.
rain, sleet, or snow.
At all of our
They're-
locations.
All locations,
Yeah.
right? They are out there. And if you think about it, they are the first impression that somebody experiences when they go into any of our locations.
It's
Right.
one of the most critical roles that so many churches, including us sometimes, underestimate the
Yes.
importance of that role.
Yes. And I watch the culture and the camaraderie amongst that team. I look at the group chats. I look at people praying together. I look at people having barbecues together.
Yeah.
I look at people going to each other's weddings for their family. Like, there were people that are so connected.
That they wear bunny ears
Yes.
on Easter now when they park cars.
But that just
Don't
shows
tell
you
people that.
I'm just kidding.
that just shows
You're
you
not kidding. They do.
but that just shows you the community
Yeah.
that's there. And what warms my heart is when volunteers that are in our ministry say they have tighter relationships with people that they serve with than some of their friends and family.
Yeah.
That's huge because they see these people, and it may start on a Sunday and it expands beyond that,
Yeah.
where they're having lunch together and they're doing Bible studies together and they're taking their kids out together, and it just deepens those relationships.
Yeah.
I've seen some of the volunteers on our teams, they go on vacations together.
Yeah.
So it just deepens those friendships
Right.
and those relationships in a way where that person was never known before, but through serving,
Yeah.
they have that new connection.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah, I mean that's the why, right? That's the why behind it. And I think, we always can do better at explaining that, but the why is that change lives change lives.
Yes.
And when you have the opportunity to be on a team and you said this, but I'm just going to reiterate it. When people get together to do something that's greater than they can do by themselves, there's just something supernatural. God moves through that, right? If we look back at the Israelites marching around Jericho, it wasn't one, it was all of them. God told them they all need to do this. They all need to chant. They all need to this. They need to march. And collectively, a miracle happened.
Yes.
And so I think the isolation, we talked about this. I don't remember which month, but in September, August of one of our series, we talked about community and the importance of community. And isolation is the enemy's number one tactic. It started from all the way in the beginning.
100%.
What happened when in Genesis, the beginning of time, where the enemy deceived, the serpent deceived Adam and Eve. And what did it says they went and they hid.
Yeah.
Because of why? Because of shame. Isolation creates shame.
Yes.
And a lot of people are like the shame created the isolation. I actually think isolation creates the shame. And so he isolated. And so that's the enemy's number one. He's only got a couple, 2 or 3 things in his toolbox.
Yes.
He's used it for thousands of years,
same
and
recipe.
we all keep falling trapped to it. It's not by accident that the first thing in a pandemic that the world said was go isolate, right? The enemy was like, this is amazing, because
Is that how he talks?
and listen, what?
Is that how he talks?
The enemy in my head, he sounds like that, like a little mouse that I just want to step on. Anyway, so but it's crazy. And so if we had to, it always bothers me a bit when I feel like I have to sell the benefits to somebody, but we have to sell the benefits, and the benefits of serving and how you can exponentially grow your faith is incredible. And so, which leads me to a follow-up question, unless you have a follow-up question, ladies first.
No, go.
Is give us an example in your own life, right? Your own life where you've experienced through serving your faith exponentially be increased and or let me phrase it in a different way, your relationship with Jesus grow from that.
Oh man, I'm trying to think of a few good ones and trying to pick the best one.
It's
Serving,
only a 30-minute show, by the way.
that's okay. Serving Jesus for this many years, for as long as we have, we've been really, really passionate about really helping people see the light, right? And I think
the light means Jesus.
Jesus, right?
Just being clear.
And for some people, when I'm seeing them struggle and they come and they say, and this was before I even became a pastor, I still served with the same energy and passion and love for people before there was a title. I just want to make sure I clarified that. When people would come, and I could just think of, men who would come and say, I'm really, really struggling. I need to talk to you. And I said, no problem. I'm available for you, because there's just a little extra for those people that are there. There's more connectedness. They don't feel as bad when they're dealing with something. Sat and talk, and we will sit and we will laugh and we will cry and we'll go through it. And to see that light that Jesus is using me to be able to reach that person, that does it all for me. Does it all for me, because
It's the greatest high, right?
greatest high, because there's so many people that are struggling with different things. And you go back to, your point about isolation. Many people think that they're the only one dealing with something.
Yeah.
They're the only one dealing with financial issues. They're the only one dealing with, children. They're the only one dealing with, their jobs, whatever it is. But to sit with those people and to just minister to them and just help them see that light, that's the biggest high that I could ever think of.
And then that person, right, change lives. So your life changed is going to change another life, which then that life change will change another life.
Right. And this really only happened because when I think about it, there were people that poured into me when I didn't even realize they were pouring into me.
Because
Right.
it goes back to what you said before about being available
Yes.
for people. And that's a lot of what volunteering is just being available
Right.
to who's in front of you, who's coming through the door, all that. So I have a question about those that feel not qualified.
Mhm.
I'm not qualified to do that. I'm not qualified, right? So what would you say to a volunteer who's who has not gotten out of the bleachers and onto the field yet because they're like, well, I can't do that. I don't have anything to offer, or I'm not
That's
qualified.
a better way to say it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of people that say, I have nothing to offer. And I realize for many people, it's a self-image thing.
Mm.
It goes back to the way they may have been brought up. It goes back to what their belief system is for themselves. So we say that when we accept Jesus, we're born again. We're a new creature. But some people still hold on to the old version of themselves.
Sure.
Mhm.
And when they hold on to that old version, that's a little voice, the little mousy voice saying, oh, no, you're not qualified. You're not going to do this.
It sounds better when I do it.
It does, right? I'm trying to do an impersonation, but it didn't work.
No, it really sunk.
But
That's all right.
But the thing about it is that those same people will come up with reasons why,
Sure.
and in their mind justify those reasons. And in a conversation, we're able to sit with that person and say, hey, listen, no, you can do anything that you want to put your mind to. Let's talk through what you like to do.
Yeah.
If you think about our house, we have so many different opportunities.
Sure.
So can we figure out what you like to do? So I like to have conversations with people where we start with, what do you like to do?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that person says, well, I love administration, or I love children, or I love cooking, or I love just being, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Identify that, which is that why,
Right.
and then align them with an area where they can experience a win.
Yeah.
And I realize for many people, they don't know what a win looks like.
Mm.
So when they can get a win, so we'll tell people without heavy commitment, hey, why don't you shadow in an area for a week?
Yeah.
And then come back to me. So it's not this deep level of commitment. They don't feel this pressure,
Sure. Yeah.
but they can start to slowly just get themselves ingrained.
Yeah. It's good. It's really good.
Yeah, no, I think it's so important, right? Because one of the things that we've really endeavored to do with this podcast is, there's all kinds of podcasts. You can get on a podcast and they can give you all kinds of statistics, and they, I just watched the podcast of a pastor who literally was just him and a camera, and he's preaching a sermon.
Yep.
And that was great. That was awesome. And then you've got other types of themes and podcasts. And one of the things we've tried to do or endeavored to do with this podcast is really take these things that are churchy, the things that you may hear on a Sunday, these kind of things, and really distill it. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Bring it to practical ways of what it means biblically and what that's all about. Because I think from again, there's just this. I had a conversation just the other day with someone regarding, I think the conversation was about, I think churches are, they're just becoming just like an organization and like a business. And I said, well, what are you trying to tell me about that? They're like, people just want us to serve, and they want us to do this and they want us to do that so that the organization keeps moving forward. And I was like, you're missing the point.
Totally.
You're totally missing the point from this. First of all, if you're responding that way because you're upset about systems and processes, God is a systematic and a process God.
God of
He
order.
designed the tabernacle in every little cubic whatever. Everything was designed meticulously by God, and he said, "Here's how you come into my presence." And then they'll say, "Well, that's the Old Testament." No, Jesus was meticulous in everything that he did. There were systems and processes, but the reason we create this system of how you engage in the life of the church through volunteerism is because of what we've talked about. And if we had time, hours and hours and hours on this podcast, we could bring one after another, after another, and after another of stories of people. That's the why. That's what's so important. And when you engage in that, God does that exponentially. For me, when I said yes to Jesus and recommitted my life at 14 years old, and all I wanted to do was serve in the house of God, I saw people see me. There was gifts and talents in me that I didn't know I had.
Yes.
There was leadership in me I didn't know I had. And those things got developed. And it's why we believe it's a passion of ours and of collectively of us as a church is to be a place, where, we develop to send out. And so it is so incredibly important. And I feel like I don't know how you do faith without engaging in the life of the church through serving. I don't know how you grow in your faith.
Yeah.
Right. Go ahead.
But it's so important to understand that exact point, because this is your chance to practice your faith as you get to serve people, right?
Yeah.
And when I think about it, and I think about even for myself in seasons where I may have been tired, and I go, oh man, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on with the kids. There's a lot going on with business and work, and there's just a lot going on. It helps me recenter, right? Word says, do not be weary in well doing, for in due season you will reap if you faint not. So it helps to recenter. And it says, okay, let me recharge my battery in a healthy way by continuing to go out and continuing to love on people and continue to serve on people, serve people.
And you make a really good point. Some of the great, a lot of times people don't like to hear this, but when you're dealing with an issue or you're struggling, the best healing balm to that is to serve someone else, to care for someone else. Also, there was something, I'll circle back and then I'll let you ask the final question as we wrap up, is just a couple days ago, I was having a real rough time. And I called a lead pastor friend of mine and said, hey, I'm really struggling right now. And he for a few moments talked about how he was struggling the day before. Very similar. And at the end of that, he goes, I'm not trying to say all this so that that I'm devaluing what you're going through. What I'm trying to say is that you're not alone.
Yes.
And then he told me a story of another lead pastor and so forth. And so what that helped me do was, number one, go, I'm not crazy. Two, this is not abnormal. And there's other people that understand, right?
100%.
And when you're on a team, if all you look at is, I'm only parking a car or I'm, holding a sign, but you said this earlier, that's what I'm circling back at, is now you meet other people that are experiencing things that you're experiencing, or they're in something that you've already won the battle and now you get to help walk alongside them.
Yeah.
And so there's just so much more. And that's the exponential impact of serving in the house of God.
I can tell you, even for us, probably the roughest thing that we ever went through was hearing that our son was diagnosed with leukemia.
Yeah.
12, it was 20, geez, I'm trying to think back. I try to block this stuff out. 2012, right? He was diagnosed with leukemia, and, he's young, vibrant to now deal with that. And I challenged and go, God, why are we going through this? We serve God's people. We love, we're faithful. But I realized that we went through that season so we can be that voice to be able to help other people who went through a similar thing and say, hey, we're going to pray through it. We're going to get to the other side. Let's recenter and let's refocus. So, I tell people, because people think, well, I'm serving, I'm giving, I'm doing all these things. My life should be great.
Yeah.
Well, no, stuff is still going to happen.
Yeah.
But you process it very, very differently.
So then that's a great way to segue into the last question. So if someone's on the fence right now with whether they should start serving or not, how would you encourage them to take that step?
Yeah. Listen, get connected with your team. Ask a question.
But if they're not even on a team yet.
Yeah. Listen, finish growth track. That's a step.
Yeah.
Once you finish growth track, we'll get you connected to a team.
Yeah.
Somebody will reach out to you. Somebody will talk to you. Somebody will sit with you. It doesn't hurt by asking a question.
Yeah.
There's a power in a question. And the question, I would say, for somebody who's struggling, where is the biggest need?
It's a good question to ask.
Where is the biggest need?
Because it always looks like everything's put together.
That's right.
Because typically a few number of people make it happen every week, right? So sometimes people think like, oh, they don't need me.
Yes.
They don't need me. They got it together because a few number of people make it happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Because what some people will do is they'll say, well, I don't know where I should go. I don't know what my gifts are. Well, guess what? When you ask what's the biggest need, maybe we reverse engineer it. We get a chance to start with the biggest need.
Yeah.
And then you realize, wow, I really like that. And then you get to deepen your faith in that area and serve God's people.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So I'll end with this, but thank you for
this conversation.
being
pleasure.
here. But people will say they're too busy to serve. And I'll say, how can you be too busy to grow your faith? How can you be,
exercise it.
We were talking about that on our way here about how, well, it's too far to drive to do this, or to get to church, or it's too far to drive to it's too much of a commitment to serve. And And it's like, but you're willing to make that commitment for sports. You're willing to make that commitment for all these other things that ultimately do not impact your now
Or your eternity.
and your eternity. And so, hey, it was great having you on.
Thank you so much.
Great
It was a
conversation.
Thank you.
So appreciate you.
Thank you for
and-
all you do, for the volunteers, for the people of Life Church, and thanks to all the volunteers who make it happen
Absolutely.
every week.
They're
So
the best.
appreciate it. All right. Good having you.
Thank you.